Hello, welcome back to the FM Realty Report podcast. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about how the investors have affected our market here as far as inventory goes, and how important it is to keep in mind what you've said in the last episode about, are we reaching the point where a certain generation is going to be no longer around, and we're going to have all this inventory available.
Sounds great.
And then we'll touch on the nuclear plant, talks about the nuclear plant in upstate New York. So, Don, I want to kind of pick your brain at this a little bit.
Sure.
I've mentioned before I've been realtor for 8 years, but I was wrong. I got my real estate license in 2012. So it's been a little longer. But
we all age.
A drop in the bucket compared to your experience. So I'm noticing things that maybe I don't talk too much about it, but constantly keep an eye on it because I do work with so many investors in real estate. And I'm noticing that what's been happening is when we say our inventory is lower and lower and we need to build more, I feel like there weren't that many real estate investors that were looking at building real estate portfolios, say 20, 30 years back. And there were more individuals who saw what rich people were doing investing in real estate maybe 50 years back. And then when the interest rates started to come down and, middle class had opportunities to buy homes and hold on to them as investment, maybe pass on to their children, that is no longer the same today.
No, it isn't. It's changed.
The investors are looking at these opportunities not just from local areas, but across the pond and other parts of this country, and they're trying to grab and build portfolios of real estate as much as possible because, like we've said in the past episode, people need homes to live in. People need a roof over their heads, and it's one of the investments that is, as long as it's long term, it's not as risky. And why I say not as risky, if you're investing in real estate to make a turnaround in a few years and hoping to make a bank on that, that's a higher risk.
That's a higher risk.
Yeah, but if you're doing
flipping properties, exists here as it does in most of the rest of the country, but it's a much more risky proposition.
Yes. But if you're investing into real estate and building these long-term portfolios with 15 years and up, then you expect markets might fluctuate. I'm going to be renting this out for this long. There's going to be income coming in. I'm going to eventually pay off this mortgage. The return ROI is going to be higher after that. Those are the things investors look at, and those are the things I look at for my investors.
Right, and you're absolutely right. And those are the two things. There are some investors that look more strongly at the return on their investment on a monthly basis, and they're looking for income. There's other investors that primarily are looking for having tenants buy an asset for them. And there's a balance. Different investors want different things. But you're absolutely right. National trends exist here. National trend that's been growing over the past years are investors buying single-family homes. And that's happening here in Syracuse. And as you had mentioned earlier, when an investor buys a single-family home, that takes that property off of the normal cycle.
Yes.
And that does begin to also affect things like housing shortage.
And when we went through just a few years back when the interest rates were so low and how much above asking price people were paying. I was selling houses that were selling $30,000 more than asking price.
Absolutely.
And
it's still going on to a certain extent.
Right. Maybe not as extreme
Right.
because of the interest rates have changed, but I feel like that is driven also by investors
Sure.
who are doing a long-term investment. And what that does changes two things. In my opinion, it changes our market value, so the averages start to grow. And the second is our inventory for your average consumers who just want to buy a home to live in.
Right.
And
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, and that my thought has been kind of growing on this over time. Well, we keep seeing our inventory getting lower and lower. And do you think that what I've said is to extent is true? Is because we have the growth of investors?
I absolutely think it's true. It's hard to get hard data on a lot of this, although it's starting to come in. We know that over the last several years, the number of investors from New York City who have bought here it's just a tremendous shift. I also think that there was a dynamic that I still wonder why it hasn't come back. But when I started my career many decades ago, I made my living selling two families to young couples who needed and wanted to get into the housing market, and their intention was, and they accomplished it largely, they bought the two family, lived there until they were able to go buy a single family house to live in and raise their kids, but they maintained their two family. They hung on to their two family as an investment. Some did sell to get the equity to help buy another house, but many of them hung on to it. And I still wonder today why that dynamic isn't as strong as it used to be, and it's not. I think part of the reason is exactly what you're saying. Investors are buying those properties first. And an investor might not outbid a homeowner, a two-family, be owner-occupied. I think that owner-occupant will pay more than an investor, but that investor is going to act more quickly. And that investor might have cash.
And I was going to say cash.
And so from a competitive point of view, it puts that homeowner who wants to buy that property to live in at a somewhat competitive disadvantage.
And I'm not going to say the name of the company or the person, but about 10 years ago, I met with a person from Australia, and he's one of the owners of a hedge fund. And what their hedge fund does from Australia is they look for real estate investments. And we were curious, why are you here from Australia? And he said that they have clients, numerous clients who were interested on investing in real estate on east coast of United States. And he said 2 cities came up based on, I don't know what data they've collected and how they came up with it, but he said it came up that Atlanta and Syracuse were 2 desired locations to invest in real estate. And that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Obviously, things changed.
And I think it's even more intense now.
It was so interesting to me. And I've said this before, maybe in episode 1 or 2, when I said when investors talk about business and real estate, my ears are always open and I listen. And it was interesting to me. We took them out to dinner and we had a conversation, how they come up with this and how they look at investing in real estate. Not just what I hear from a smaller individual investors, but this is now at a larger hedge fund,
right?
Who is here and clearly saw a reason to be here and to look at some investments. So when I left the other company and I joined with you, Don, I kind of continued to pay attention to these things. And that's how I think my source of this information that I came up with, where we're talking always about lack of inventory, but I think this is partially where it's coming from.
Absolutely.
Outside of the growth and what's happening here economically.
There's one thing that I find advantageous for us here at FM Realty Group, but your constant involvement is just another reason to emphasize all real estate is local. And if we're not out in our marketplace, in our local marketplace, engaged, we're not going to be seeing these trends. We're not going to be able to be helping our clients. And in the investment market, you're there. You've got your ear to the ground and you're involved. And those people who want to do investments need to get a broker, get a realtor who knows the market like you.
And I've encouraged friends. I tell them, look, if you're interested in investment, consider real estate. I can talk to you about it. And there's 2 ways you can invest. I always mention these 2 points: is you can become a short-term investor, or long-term investor.
Yep.
And short-term investors are what I've mentioned earlier. You're doing a flip, or you're doing a short-term investment for a few years to then maybe liquidate some properties and invest into something longer term. So, and I try to talk to younger people about it.
I think that's great. And I'm going to make you, in one of our future podcasts, do a podcast just on buying a two-family house.
Oh, I'd
just
love to.
on buying as a consumer wanting to live there and as an investor. There are landlords who shouldn't be landlords. Mm-hmm. And there are potential investors who should be in real estate that aren't. Mm-hmm. And hopefully we can help both.
Yeah, and I'll try to keep it short.
Well, we might have to do a couple.
Yeah, but absolutely. And with the changes with the Electrification Act, that also changes how I have to start approaching things.
Yes.
And from my side, both the construction and real estate investments, I need to take this into consideration and follow what's happening. So I'm going to pull this up. Just recently looked this up. On June 23rd in 2025, Hochul District's New York Power...
Governor
Yeah,
Hochul.
our Governor Hochul, sorry. Authority developer a zero-emission nuclear facility. So they're talking about it, and I'm personally hoping it would come and happen.
I agree.
Because there is too much stress on the grid. And we are developing so fast here, not only residential, but these industries that are moving in here. Their demand for power is incredible.
It's only going to increase.
Yes.
Let's talk about AI.
Oh, I know. So that would be one of them. And the goal is to have at least 1 gigawatt capacity, enough to power 1 million homes. And New York Power Authority thinking about partnering with private investors as well. So might be like a joint venture. The New York Power Authority investing in this and some private money as well, which I think it's good. I feel like maybe we talked about this off episode, off podcast, but when you want to get stuff done, you kind of need to tap into private money.
Absolutely. The public-private partnership, I think, is the way to go. And interestingly, and I'm sure you're going to mention this, but I'll beat you to it, we know that Oswego, New York, has a site next to the existing power plants that is already approved for a nuclear plant. Given the not in my backyard theory around the state and around the country, and given the expense of trying to develop new sites, I think that gives Oswego a huge, huge boost. And I don't know when the decision's going to be made, but to go and have that additional power is going to be not only great, it's going to be absolutely needed. Fitzpatrick Nuclear Power Plant is the oldest power plant in the country. It's not going to go on forever. Now, this plant is going to be much larger, but the fact of the matter is, at one point, we've just got that little aspect of this discussion, is that plant can't go on forever. So I think, personally, over time, you're going to see more than one New York State nuclear power plant being built.
I believe it's the future, honestly.
Technology is much better than it was, much safer than it was, much cleaner than it was. Look at the French. The Germans and the Japanese have decided to shut down, or I guess that's being slowed down a little bit. But the French continue to build, and the French do something very interesting. All of their waste stays on site. They don't transport it. They don't have to worry about accidents happening in transportation, terrorism. It's on site, and they have found it to be a very efficient way of doing it. So it'll be interesting to see what we do here.
And the waste of nuclear power plant is not a lot.
No, it's not in volume. No,
it's not. It sounds scary, and I understand.
Sure, so do I.
But the future is going to be nuclear powered many things. There's a company. There's a company I've followed. I don't remember the name of it. I'll have to look it up. Maybe bring it up in the next episode. But they were looking into a modular nuclear power stations,
Right.
where you add modulars
Right.
with the nuclear power as needed.
I believe Microsoft has announced that they're going to try to bring on the third tower at 3 Mile Island, bring that back because of their AI center, power center that they're going to have down there. So there's a lot happening.
Yeah.
The reality is, and climate change in my mind is very real. Environmental impact is, I mean, I've got grandkids. It's very real.
Yes.
It's also very real that power usage is increasing exponentially. So we have to have an open mind. We have to look at the things that we can do. And just like so many other things, solutions, housing, whatever it happens to be, food production, there's no silver bullet. There's lots of answers to the same problem, multiple answers rather to the same problem. And that's going to be the case here.
Yeah. So one of the things we talked about loading the grid, you know, their concern was the growing energy demand from AI, the EVs, and the manufacturing, like Micron data center. And Micron data center, yeah, it's the biggest coming up here, but if you measure that against multiple others that are coming up here, it might be smaller in scale. So the push for EV, I've talked to people who work for National Grid, and they're saying they keep pushing EV, and we constantly have maintenance issues with our grid.
Right.
We are struggling.
Yeah, the grid has to be attacked.
Yeah. So the infrastructure and power demand has to be addressed. Nuclear plant is going to be one of the greatest balance to that and fulfilling that demand.
Yep.
The renewable can't fully handle base load demand, so nuclear hopefully will fill that gap.
I think when you have nuclear, that's going to, in a roundabout way, even expand renewables because now there will be that gap filler. And so renewables, I think, will increase exponentially. And the partnership is going to get us to the point where New York State has said it wants to be, good, bad, and different. New York State and even around the world, fossil fuel has to be phased out.
Yes.
And I do believe that fossil fuel does have to be largely phased out. I don't think it's ever going away totally, but it's not going to be the dominant player.
Might not be in our lifetime.
It may. I don't think it's going to be. I think in our lifetime it'll cease to be the dominant energy source. Just like everything else, there's spots where that kind of energy, fossil fuel production, can be handled, and in much lower quantities, the damage to the environment might be negligible or nothing at all.
Yeah. And really, if you think about solar and wind, it's a renewable energy. But is it cleaner than nuclear? Some people argue against it. And I see we've talked about how do you recycle these wind turbines?
Yeah.
And how do you recycle the solar panels? What
Right.
happens to them?
Right.
There is, I think, only 1 or 2 companies in the world properly recycle solar panels.
It's a problem with electric cars and batteries.
And the solar farming takes what? A real estate.
Absolutely.
So a lot of land. So more of these nuclear plants we have. And with today's technology, they're so much safer.
You bring up a good point to our colleagues who are listening out there. These are all tremendous opportunities for us. Not only opportunities for us to make money, but it's also opportunities for us to be part of the solution to our varied problems and challenges that we have. And the reason I've stayed in this industry as much as any other reason is real estate is at the basis of so much. Housing is at the basis of so much. Talk about transportation, talk about energy, talk about food supply, talk about clean air. Housing, real estate. It's there. So these are tremendous opportunities for us to continue to earn a good living, but at the same time, really have positive impacts in our community.
It's also a beginning of every family.
Yeah.
Can't start a family without a home. Right?
That's what we've done in our lives.
Yeah. So, and then a little more on this nuclear plant, possibly. is they're saying up to 1,600 construction jobs
Yeah.
and 1,200 long-term positions.
High-paying jobs.
Yeah, I don't know the cost yet, but
I know with 9 Mile 1 and 9 Mile 2 and Fitzpatrick plant up there, I've sold several houses over the years to employees there. Their salary range is historically much higher than the median average wage here in central New York by a factor of more than 2.
Wow. And when you said that the land up in Oswego, there next to one of the existing ones, is already zoned for it.
Correct.
That's a no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer to me.
So the two things you touched on is not in my backyard and where is it going to be?
Right.
There.
Yep.
And if you complain about not in my backyard, well, you already have one in your backyard.
Right.
That is less safe, that is older than this new one would be.
Correct. So
why not, but why not,
sure.
let's get this new one up and running, safe, and decommission the one that...
Yeah. And, it just might be something where it becomes a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's already there and geared up for it, I don't know what the local community's thoughts are. I'm sure we'll be finding that out as time goes on. And it's not guaranteed to be in Oswego. It just seems to you and me to be a no-brainer in terms of a site. But we'll see what happens. But as I said, whatever happens, I don't think one nuclear power plant in New York State is the end of it. There's going to be more.
No, but it should be a beginning and a sample of what nuclear can do and how
Correct.
safe it can be.
Yeah.
So again, I want to say thank you to all the listeners and followers. Please reach out to us, whether it's on social media or in person, or if you see us somewhere at events, come up and tell us what you think of our podcast, or if you have any talking points you'd like us to touch on. But we're also on Facebook and Instagram. Help us grow those channels. We would really appreciate it. If you need to get in touch with Don or myself, our contact information is in the description. And in the future episode, we want to change the gears up a little bit and talk about the historic homes and the preservation.
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you, Don.
Okay. Have a good one.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.